We'll start how we always do with a Dear Diary, and this week has been an intense one, and we've got a lot to get through. A lot to get through because this week I thought I would come a little bit more prepared, and throughout the week I just had a notepad, physical and digital notepad on hand to document my thoughts, ideas, things I could improve, setbacks, things I've learned, things I've picked up on, eureka moments about what I've done so badly, so on and so forth. So today, I'm just going to jump into everything. It's going to go left field a million and one times. It's going to go from some of the content I've been making to some of the projects to some of the things I've sort of thought about myself recently, a few lifestyle changes I've made, and everything in between. So I guess that's a good place to start when I talk about a lifestyle change. Because in the words of James Clear, if you look at Atomic Habits, there's a fundamental part in habit, which is your identity. And for a very long period of time, my identity, not my personality, but my self-identity was always someone within fitness. So for a very long time, of course, I went to the gym 5-6 times a week, worked out 5-6 times a week, then became a personal trainer. So naturally my identity was reinforced there, and subconsciously I would train because I had to be in good shape, because obviously I was selling my services, and a lot of that's based around image, like it or not. And I wasn't really enjoying training at the time. But I'd looked at myself and I evaluated myself, and I thought, I've gone from someone that when I was working in London was doing 2 sessions a day and 12-13 sessions a week, training and eating like a professional, to someone who says to people in conversation, I'm happy if I get 2 sessions in a week, and those sessions are actually just getting in the gym for 20-30 minutes and not even necessarily that intense. And on reflection, I thought that is not good enough, and I don't like that. I don't like dropping that out completely. I feel like almost it's a weak-minded approach, because as I always say with anything, with fitness, it's so true. Whether you like it or not, if you don't have the fitness goals you desire, it's because they're either too unrealistic, which is 90% of them, or it's not a big enough priority to you. And that isn't a bad thing either. People think sometimes when they have a life where fitness or working out or whatever else isn't a number one priority, they think they should feel ashamed for that. That's not a bad thing. It's not to say you shouldn't do resistance training, eat healthily and try and move. No, that's just being a human being. But you don't have to make it your number one identity. But when I evaluated everything I was doing, I was getting about 1 or 2 sessions in a week at best, semi-par sessions. My body was just looking weaker and more feeble and fragile. I wasn't feeling as confident in my skin. And of course, you never realize those things until you start making a change and realize how long you've been in that lull. And it was weird for me because I'd always been the person in fitness where I thought to myself, I'm never going to be one of those people that doesn't just gym at least 5 times a week, because that feeling's so addictive of just improving and just obviously feeling more confident within yourself. But my priorities shifted dramatically to Casuals Corner being at the forefront of everything, and I would always use that as an excuse. Not as a conscious excuse, but as a subconscious excuse. So my excuse to not go to that gym would have been because it took X, Y, Z time out of my day, which I could be spending on my brand, which was valid. But what wasn't valid was the fact that I didn't try and overcome that hurdle. How can I overcome that? Well, I do have 2 dumbbells in my house. So what can I do about that? Okay, I can set a timer for 30 minutes every day. I am in that house. If I'm working at the desk, if I come back from the gym from filming and haven't had a session there, whatever the case may be, if I'm at that house, I put 30 minutes on my timer and I go and move those weights in whatever direction for as many reps, it doesn't matter, for 30 minutes. And I walk out of that room. And then essentially I'll just build on that. I'll build on that until that 30 minutes is maybe 45, and that 45 is then maybe I've reprogrammed myself an actual workout and I'm working towards something, and I'm actually incrementally gaining my weights and changing the sets and pyramid, all of these different nuances, which I can't go into yet or activate yet, which obviously I have before. I'm not at that level yet, and you have to sort of play to each level. Sometimes people are trying to go to level 100. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym every day and have a scheduled workout and eat like this and da da da. I've been through a period of time I feel like a much better person to speak on fitness and things like that as a general now, because I've been through every wave of it. I've been through that person. It was number one priority. Could never see myself not going, to being working a horrible physical manual job where I'm up at 4, back at 11, and just hate my life, and my diet's terrible and my body looks terrible. So I've been everywhere in between now. And then I can sort of conclude really that it's all about just doing the bare minimum, and doing the bare minimum consistently, and then building on that, and not setting your expectations above that, because that's how I started to get back into it. And that's how I used to tell people you need to get into things like fitness and whatnot, and improving yourself that way. You have to just do the bare minimum and make that consistent, and then build on that. But that's not glamorous, and it's not very fast. But that's what I did. I went to the gym. I would walk in. Even if I did one set, I'd walk back out. I didn't care. I went to the gym. And then I'd build on that. Next thing I know, I was doing 2 exercises. Next thing I was there 30 minutes. Next thing I know, I'm in there an hour. Next thing I know, I've got a scheduled workout and I'm working towards something. It built up gradually over time. But you have to put the foundations and the building blocks in, essentially. So I've really reshifted myself back into identifying. It's like, right, I'm in a fitness space still. I'm still very much in that realm. I talk a lot about food. I talk a lot about fitness and fighters and strength and conditioning. So it makes sense for me to not lose all of those skills and all of those thousands of hours that I've paid into that craft. Not lose that completely, not only physically but mentally, in terms of hours into the craft. And I may as well use that and re-engineer that so I can use it into the brand. And now I'm already starting to manifest more in terms of that, because I'm putting things out there in terms of my session that I done the other day, workout, and then when I went to a PT client. And it's just getting those conversations started a little bit. So that's one thing. Oh, I just booted the camera, but that is one thing. The next, I've wrote down a list of bullet points of just how these have entered my head. So you're gonna really see the linear look of my thoughts throughout the week, really. So this is Monday to Sunday, essentially. Monday up until where we're at now. And so you can see how things are jumping around. So it could be interesting. I don't know. So I'm just going to sort of read them out and then elaborate on what I sort of meant by that. So if it's not happening, you're not putting the learning or the necessary reps. Yeah. And that goes with the fact that someone messaged me about a particular video I made, and they said, how do I make it? And I said, okay, there's this thing called CapCut, incredible free tool. Gave them tons of tips and helps and advice and things like that. Said, go away, just get familiar with it. Trust me, it's super powerful. You can do a ton of stuff. They probably, in the meantime, they used it once and it was rubbish in terms of the final product they created. And then they messaged me, how do I get it more like yours? Well, I mean, there's clear evidence from quite literally millions of people on the internet that started with a baseline of terrible content, and then it gets progressively better after a couple of years. And why I sort of say that is because you have to look at it like this. Are you putting in the necessary learnings to get better at it? He definitely was not. Because if he YouTubed one video about how do I add transitions, he would have instantly upgraded his video by 1% that he hadn't already done. If he Googled how can I ratio the video so it fits on TikTok, he could do that in 2 clicks of a button and leveled up the video he made. So are you learning enough? And if you say, you know what, I'm putting a ton of time into learning and upgrading my skills and all of this thing, okay, cool. How many reps have you done? How many reps have you done? Because I'm at a point now with Casuals Corner where I'm a million miles away from being where I want to be and being a leading guy in the game in regards to media and content. I'm a million miles away from that. I know that. However, I'm also a million miles away from the person, myself, who started on day one. And the thing that separates myself from day one and myself from now is not 2 and a bit, 3 years. Because if you actually look at that span, it's not time, it's reps. And if you go back to my fitness page that I ran, if you go back to Casuals Corner and its inception, if you look across both platforms, you'll see over 10,000 posts. 10,000 posts of absolute rubbish, absolute crap, terrible. It's like not even leveling up. I said about it last week. Not even leveling up. Not even trying to level up. Thinking I'm doing a good enough job just because I'm posting and being settled and content with that. But there was so much more to that. And my point is there's 8,000 reps between what you've just done and thought, oh, it's rubbish, oh, I don't know how to use it, and said, oh, this isn't really my thing, I'm not a tech guy, you're much better at it than me. It's a loser mentality. It's well and truly just a loser mentality. So you've got to get more reps in, well and truly. You just got to get more reps in. And that's really what this game comes down to be honest. In terms of content and media, there's only one way to get better, and that's to do it. And if you create enough media and enough content, you're in this really nice position where if you create crap content and media, it's sort of like a needle in a haystack because you do so much. Because you're posting on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and long form and shorts and a million different mediums, if you create a video which isn't cut very well, or the sound's a little bit off or iffy, or text could have been better, you can note that down and improve on it. You haven't got to go away and be hurt about it for a week because it's a drop in the ocean. The cogs keep on turning, the comments keep on coming, and people are still interacting because you've got a catalogue and a backlog of content as well, and social proof essentially. So get some reps in. Same as weight. So it all comes back to fitness. It's like, oh, Will, I've been eating super well and lifting loads. It's like, okay, cool. How long have you been doing that for? Mate, I've been doing it 4 months now. Alright, do it for 4 years and then be annoyed if you're not seeing results. If you're not seeing results at that point, you can be justified to be a little bit miffed. But up until then, it's like you sort of got to just stay for the ride, essentially. There's not much more you can do than that. Which sort of, in terms of staying for the ride, brings me on to my next bullet point, which is just about GBTV this week. So obviously anyone that tunes in knows that that's a weekly series I make with GB Top Team. And the long story of it is I got offered tickets to UFC London by Nathaniel Wood, which I felt super privileged for, first and foremost, because of all the people that he could give tickets to in his home crowd and all the people that would have been asking, he drops me a message and says, there's a free ticket there for you. However, moral dilemma, it falls on the same night as my friend's title fight in Bournemouth that I'd already promised him that I would film and create into an episode because I knew I wasn't going to UFC London because my press credentials got declined. So that was a little bit of a moral dilemma. He goes to me, they're very good seats. I said, how good? And then I said, actually, don't answer that. I don't want to know. But I was always going to go down there. I was always going to go down there because the truth of the matter is, Frank, of course, has been one of my longest friends. One of the friends that I'm most closest to, shared a lot of moments with him. And a lot of different times in our lives. That's the intriguing part about it. And not only did he sort of show me the sport and get me into the sport, which I'm always forever grateful for, he started in a very similar vein to me, but just on a different path. Because where he's conceived the sport and gone down the training route and reshaped his entire personality in a good way and life and career again in a good way through martial arts, and seeing that come to a boil and come to a crescendo was I couldn't overlook that. And I really was conscious of the fact that I wanted to make a time capsule. I wanted to create a video that I knew in the back of my head that in 10 years, 20 years time, we're probably going to be sitting down together laughing and looking at this video and just reminiscing, because why wouldn't you? And of course you're going to, and it immortalizes the work by putting it on the internet. So I went in there with a real intention with what I was doing and why I was doing it and what I wanted to create. I still look at that and think of a million things I could have done better. I think I could have probably got better establishing shots. I think I could have got better B-roll in terms of capturing emotion of crowds, of corners, of maybe fighters close angle tight in the cage, maybe in the clinch positions. I think I definitely could have done a better job of that, 100%. I could have done a better job of giving myself more time to edit it and not rush the audio towards the end, because I don't feel like it told the story as well as it could have done. But again, that's number one, me breaking bad habits of leaving things a little bit last minute. But also you have to appreciate that I didn't really have a choice. I went to the event on the Saturday. I'm home and done the podcast and done the clips, and it's 12 o'clock on the Sunday. So I couldn't really get jumped into it then, and I had to get stuck into it late. So I left myself literally just a few hours, if nothing else, to create that. But I am proud of what I've done. That's probably the proudest of any piece of work I've actually done, because I wanted to tell the story of Frank's evolution as a person, to be perfectly honest, and also his fighting career, and also his mentality, and also his skills. But in a completely non-selfish way, I wanted to showcase what I'd done in terms of my evolution and my skill. I wanted to showcase his story as powerfully, as emotively, as impactfully as I possibly could, because that's what I felt like it deserved, and that's what I felt like I even owed him in a slight way. So I really did want to do that, and obviously I shot myself in the foot by not giving myself enough time, stupidly. But I think with the ingredients I had in regards to time and management and editing platforms and things of that nature, I definitely done a good job. I would say objectively. Of course, a million areas I can improve, but I think I've done a decent enough job. And I'm so happy that I made that decision, because that's the crazy thing when you're dealing with photos and videos of any event, not just of an MMA event. But you're capturing moments in time that not only are people probably going to forget or forgetting that clarity, maybe it's things that people are never going to see again, but you're creating moments that people can look back on in their life forever. They could be 70 years of age showing their grandkids when they walked out into a caged coliseum in Bournemouth in front of probably near 1,000 people, screaming this deafening white noise in your underwear to put on some 4-ounce, 5, 6, 7-ounce gloves and go fight a man in the cage, and go show your grandkids the evolution of yourself as an athlete, as a martial artist, how it evolved your mindset, and take them through that journey that you lived as a youngster. And although that sounds extreme, I definitely had that in the forefront of my mind, and I definitely added a little bit of pressure onto myself, but also it made me a little bit of emotional when I watched it back, because it was more than just a GBTV episode for me. It was obviously a clear demonstration of the evolution of my skills and of Frank's, but also of the journeys that we're both on. We're both on because, like I said, different but same. Different but the same. And just definitely take inspiration from that, a lot of that hard work, and that just, as it says in the video, quieting that voice on your shoulder, that self-doubt. That's it. It's powerful, because you hear it a lot and it's cliche often. But when I'm filming it and I'm creating it and I'm watching it back of someone I know, and I've done everything in the creative process, I just know all the nuances of the environment and seeing his training. When you hear the words, it hits to a whole new level. It hits to a whole new level. And seeing that full evolution, it was emotional. Like, it was emotional. I'll be real. It really, really was. And I think we're only just getting started in our respective careers, and I think that's exciting. And the fact that we're both doing it through the medium of mixed martial arts is pretty fun. So I'm enjoying that. And that's all goes on to my next point, really, where I feel like I'm finally starting to show the beginnings of Casual's brand and give a feel to it and a look and a feel to it through my branding consistently and what I provide as a platform in regards to different pieces of content. And obviously we'll touch on that, but it just feels a lot more succinct now. It feels like I'm putting out a much more consistent message. And now when I'm speaking to people, and the reason I say that is because of the feedback loop I'm getting, is when I'm speaking to people, they're referencing certain pieces of my work which I'm doing consistently, which makes me realize that these things are getting picked up as being synonymous with my brand. Whether it's the spinning knife on the Food Fighters video, whether it's the sign off Keep It Casuals, whether it's the behind the scenes, whether it's the podcast, whatever it may be, there's a consistent vibe. So it's been fun to sort of see that evolve in a shorter period of time than it feels like it has done to any point up till now, which just takes a lot of time and a lot of refinement. And I'm very aware that this is very much the start, and I'm going to laugh at what I thought 6 months ago, and in 6 months I'm going to laugh at what I thought now, and I'm very aware of that, and I'm excited for that change, to be perfectly honest, because it's going to be exciting. But it goes on to the next one, which is just about Tom Aspinall, really. And I wanted to make, as I was saying, I took a lot of inspiration this week from Tom Aspinall as well, because I've heard how he's leveled up his mindset essentially to someone that engineers his entire life, I spoke about it before, to becoming a champion. Every conversation, every interaction is geared towards becoming that version of himself. And I found it really funny because I listened to an interview after I'd done the filming for GBTV down at Bournemouth. And he said something which was so scarily similar to what happened to me on the weekend. And the fact that I was taking the inspiration from him is almost even weirder. Because like I said, now I've tried to adapt that mindset. And in the context of when I was filming for the episode in Bournemouth, before I felt tentative or nervous or didn't have the confidence to walk to the places I wanted to walk to and get shots and capture, whether that was near the stage, whether that was walking the cage, whether that was get up tight next to the corners, whatever it may have been. I was tentative and a little bit more reserved because I didn't have that confidence of, I didn't even know how to use a camera, let alone I didn't want to walk into a full production and show in the middle of someone's work when I didn't really know what was happening or if I was allowed there or whatever else. But this time I was having none of that. I walked in my mind saying I was a professional. I was there to do a job, and that's exactly what I turn up to do. I turn up prepared, I turn up early, I turn up with the right equipment, the backup equipment. I turn up with goals, intentions, and ideas of what I wanted to create from that. And that meant that when the cage was open after Frank's win, I saw it open, and before I wouldn't, it sounds silly, but I wouldn't have gone in there. I would not have gone in there. I didn't have that confidence. Bearing in mind that all of these cameras are on as well. This is being televised. This is on a stream. There's a lot of people around. But this time I thought, no, I'm going in there. I'm getting that shot. I'm getting close up to the action. They're gonna, if they don't want me in there, they can tell me. And guess what? I don't care if they do tell me. I'm going in there and I'm getting this. I'm filming today. I've got the media wristband on and I've got a camera. So I'm just floating into these spaces. Just ignore me. And I had to do that. And when I look back, I'm so glad that I did, because I've got so many incredible shots. Genuinely just immortalized shots of that win that no one else has. You're never going to see again. You can't possibly get from any other shot because no one else was in that position, captured that emotion in that angle. And you're going to see that for forevermore, like I just mentioned. And that's because I just went in there. And I heard Tom Aspinall say he'd done a very similar thing, which made me laugh so much, because before he said he wanted to, when it was after the weigh-ins, he wanted to go into the cage and get a feel for it under his feet and whatnot. And before they said, oh, we can't do that on this particular day. He said he'd done it this time and they said no. He said, right, if you don't want me to do that, you're going to have to drag me out there because I want to get a feel under my feet of the canvas before I compete. And of course, that's not the same story, because me walking into the cage and taking a quick frame of Frank as he lifts his arms with a belt around his neck is not going in there to knock out heavyweight contenders in front of 20,000 people. But it's just the mindset of not compromising, of getting the best for what you need the best. And that was just one of those. So I found it interesting hearing him speak, and it really was just about that, just lack of compromising. And it's sort of, again, going to lack of compromise, it goes to the next thing, because someone dropped me a message this week and said, how did you get into this show, or whatever else? And I always say to people, if you don't ask, you don't get. You don't get. And you have to preface that by saying, know how to ask. Know how to ask. Because going into someone's DMs and saying, can I do this, or give me this, or give me that, for lack of a better words, is not how you get. It just isn't. And you're going to think that's a very fruitless way of operating or just behaving if you reach out with messages like that, because you're not going to see anything back at all. But if you don't ask, you don't get. And when you do ask, try and provide value. And if you don't have value and leverage to provide in the terms of platforms, in the terms of media or views or whatever it else is, you have to think of how you can provide value. So what can you do? Even if it's potentially saying you'll come and give a hand running the coffees, or lifting camera equipment, or giving a hand set up just because you can get a free ticket to watch the event. you have to think outside the box a little bit, but you have to provide value at nothing else. If it's writing them articles, if it's a news outlet, creating edits for them, maybe giving them ideas or ways to pivot in a way where it can potentially help them but not insult them. It's a fine line, but you always want to provide value. And if nothing else, tell them why you like them and be transparent, be authentic, reach out. Why do you like this promotion? Why do you want to work for them? Be honest. I was honest with Fightstar. I said to them, the first ever time I went to an amateur event, I didn't know what to expect, but it wasn't two massive replay screens, an incredible announcer, a great lineup of amateur talent, and a filled out arena in Crystal Palace. That's not what I expected. It's one of my favourite amateur shows to go on. I love what you guys are doing. Keep up the great work. I would love to come down and shoot some photos for you. Of course, you can repurpose them as much as you'd like. You can put them on whatever things, and I'll send them all over to you at the end. Keep up the good work. Love what you're doing. All the best. Keep it casual. Will. Completely authentic. Completely organic, completely honest, and completely a message that someone could possibly look at and think, you know what, cool, we'll say yeah. Because then what have they got to do? This is what I'm saying about you have to give more than you're getting, because they're giving little to nothing. They're giving access, which is a wristband essentially for them. So that's at a net zero cost for them, really. But what they're getting is they're getting to someone potentially that's going to help set up, potentially take photos and give them marketing. If you've got your own page, you're going to boost their thing, even if it's a small following, but you're going to create content for them. They can repurpose it. You're going to get their brand out. It's just free marketing. It just makes sense for them. So you have to understand how you can leverage whatever you got. Sometimes you've only got time, and in which case you have to leverage that time in strategic ways. But if you don't ask, you don't get. So make sure you reach out to these people. Reach out to these people with kindness and actual authenticity. And if you really are driven to get these sort of positions, I'm sure you eventually will manifest that. Because if you are hungry for it, if you are looking to improve, if you are being generous, if you are being nice with your messages and how you're wording things, and you're not just trying to take and take and take and take, then I guarantee you'll get places, and you'll get good things come your way in terms of opportunities for sure. But even in terms of here, where I've written down about things that I can do to level up, is making me think I can start getting my gimbal. I can start taking my gimbal to the jiu-jitsu sessions, and I can make mini GBTV jiu-jitsu episodes, because I'm getting really heavily into the space of B Team Jiu-Jitsu. Love what they're doing, and they've got an incredible vibe of entertainment and banter, but also learning the game monetarily, learning the game physically in regard to the submissions, and also learning the game in terms of the trainings and what goes into it. And I think there's a lot to learn from the B Team. And one thing I can definitely improve is if I take my gimbal to these jiu-jitsu lessons, then I can start doing things like submission of the week, which I've already actually got. And now I've got someone, a high-level black belt, to voice over or to send me the breakdowns of what's happening in the particular sequences. So now I've got submission of the week, which is quite fun and engaging anyway. And now I've actually got the thought process and the breakdown behind what we're seeing in front of us. So that is just a really cool piece of content I can make for kind of little friction, which goes back to what I said last week about me having more talking head videos and doing more voiceovers. Did I do more? Yes. Did I do as many as I wanted to or should have done? No. Do I need to keep on that and maybe do one more the next week? Yes. And I will do that. Last week I done 1 or 2. This week I'll do 2 or 3. And if nothing else, I'll do 2. And if nothing else, I'll do 1. So I'm staying consistent with that bare minimum. I will eventually build on that. But I just need to integrate that habit at least a little bit more so, because they do super well. And that's another thing as well. Is, again, like I said, this is just floating around everything of my head, but I need to start taking my finances more professionally, and in terms of my mindset, becoming more professional of how I'm operating. I need to do that throughout the entire business, which it is. It's a limited company, so I need to treat it as such. I've got my accountant there. I know what I need to do, so I'm going to get my finances in place, so that everything now, because every cost I have is essentially an expense, because all I do is work related, whether it's travel, whether it's going to different places, buying equipment, whatever it may be, subscriptions, it's all expenses. I don't really have a cost that isn't an expense. So I need to make sure all of that's in check, because that's where I need to level up. And we talk about mindset, incremental gains and things of that nature. I need to step away. It's like a snake leaving its skin, essentially, of this mindset of, okay, I'm just running a page and trying to get a few people to... I need to go away from that now. And now I need to look at it, right, I'm a fully fledged business. It's a company. I need to run it as such. I need the finances to be in check, make sure everything's up to date there. I need to, this week, my biggest priority this week, and I want to be accountable to you behind the camera, is to collaborate all my packages for my brand deals and sponsorships and reach out to the brands that I need to, because I'm getting more conversations my way in regards to that. So that's going to be a priority of mine this week. So making those packages and those brand deals and reaching out to the brands, so then I can increase the income for the business. Because then ultimately what I want to do with that is, not only obviously is that sponsoring my Food Fighters video, which I've spoke about before, but then the more I'm thinking about this, sorry, if you're listening to the audio, I just feel like I'm having a mini eureka moment. It's not a eureka moment as such, but it's just a moment of clarity, even more so, is I need 200 maybe extra pounds a month from a brand deal or a sponsorship. That should be easily attainable for me, attainable. And that could then fund paying a creator once a week to film me completely in a day of life of, and create a vlog for me, a 7-minute vlog. And then not only can I have that weekly vlog of what I'm doing, and then not only can I use that video for my clothing, I'll come into that in a second, but I can then also break that down and make mini day in the life of anyway, and then I can also break that down and just give sound bites of my day as well. So not only can I increase my output with just off the cuff candid thinking, because they'll be with me all day, not only can I increase the media element of it, but I can then also boost my image of how people see me operating the marketing and the business and the content side of things. So then I can eventually leverage that into a consultancy, because when I've spoke about Paddy Galloway before, and I'm going through a few more on terms of just flying all over the place, but in terms of when I spoke about Paddy Galloway before, a lot of these people run consultancies, whether it's a scalable business, a little bit like the James Smith model, where you charge a cheaper fee, appeal to the masses, and mass scale it in terms of having that sort of low bracket price of like £30 a monthly subscription, and then he's got probably a tens of thousand user base. Or do you go the other way, where it's more of a personalized, more of a specific service, but you way increase the cost? I'm thinking probably I'm going to lean towards that a little bit more. And I'm also manifesting just the consulting stuff way more, because I've been there and I've done it in the fitness world. I've been at that point where I was scared to give out knowledge online because I didn't feel confident in what I knew or my body or anything like that, so I didn't do it. Then I got to a place when I did. Then I got to a place when I was finally comfortable enough to give information and help and show people some mistakes. Then I became confident enough to sell it. And then I became confident enough to charge very good prices for my knowledge. So I've actually been through that model before. And I've gone through every emotion now with media and social media and things of that nature. And I'm just getting sort of towards the end of that journey where I'm thinking, right now, cool, I can completely charge for services now, because I have enough knowledge for people at the start to give them a really, really good, I can actually provide value, because that's what it's coming down to. It's not because I can monetize it now and I could sell something or a course or some fugazi BS. It's because I can actually provide value that I could package up and scale online, so that I can have that consultancy side of things that can funnel in the money. And then ultimately I can just have these different revenues sort of playing in the background. Is the ultimate 10 plus year game. But it sounds crazy and it sounds all this wild, and maybe for people listening it sounds ridiculous, but I'm always a massive proponent for, if someone has done it before you, then there is no reason that you cannot. And there is 1,000,001 examples of people doing the same thing, and there's 1,000,001 examples of people doing the same thing with even less experience than I've got, and even probably less social proof than I've got. So I need to get rid of that thought of that imposter syndrome, which isn't there profusely per se, but I've manifested it more now. When people have said to me and reached out about my podcast or my lighting, which I got this week, or how I filmed certain things or transitions on things like that, I give them information and I give them help, but then I also just let them know, by the way, I do run a consultancy for this sort of thing, and it does include, someone mentioned about the lighting, it does include things like the lighting, but then I also went Alex Hormozi blueprint, and I thought, right, you need to provide 100 pieces of free information before you ask for the ask. But the problem is everyone's trying to ask for the ask here, and the big eye-watering price here with this much value. But in truth, you want to go this much value, and you can't monetize all of these, but what you can monetize is the inevitable 89th step that they're going to get to, that they don't know how to solve, that you can't give them a free resource for, and you can also charge more money for. And then you can ask the get in terms of the product and the price, because not only have you developed this familiarization with your brand and you've had the 7 touch points across different marketing strategies, but you've developed a relationship, they've got good value from you, they've got good social proof for you, and now it's actually, they want to give you this money. You don't have to sell anything. And that's an Alex Hormozi, Gary V, jab, 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 right hook hybrid model, but one which is very effective. And I implemented that personally because I heard him talk about it in a fitness perspective. And I thought, how would you do that in a fitness perspective other than just give out free program? I was thinking, how would you do that? This is how we done it. He said he did a day where he would spend the whole day programming for a sort of program workout routine and sort of calorie intake for someone of X body type and X age and X lifestyle. And he'd done many of these so he could hand them out to people in that respective field. So he could give you a workout plan and a nutrition guide. And then the next thing was, the next step is, okay, I've got a nutrition guide. I know what to eat. I don't really know what to get when I'm in there though, and I don't really know the ingredients. So it's, okay, cool. Now here's a full PDF with an ingredients list. So now when you go online or you go into the shop, you can buy everything you need to know. It's like, okay, cool. How can we tick off the next step so they've got even more info? It's like, right, cool. These are 10 recipes you can make with these ingredients, and this is how to make it as quick and easy as you can. Okay, cool. Here's even actually a QR code that you can go on it, and here's a video in 1 minute of how to make this meal. It's like, cool. That's more value, more value, more value. You cannot monetize those. But eventually that person is going to get to step 67 where they don't have that resource, or you can't give them that resource, or it's going to be more tailored or more time, or you can't put it in a PDF and you can charge more money and you're going to have all that trust and develop backed up. So what I done is I said to the fella, oh, I done this for my lighting. That's just how I done it. Gave him all the value. That was all the value straight up. Then I said to him and slid it in carefully. I said, oh, this actually happens to be one of the sections and courses I cover in my consultancy. So I actually have a PDF on it. Let me send it to you. So I've sent him a PDF now of a lighting setup and everything I know about lightings, key lights, flipping establishing lights, backlights, the angles, what you want on it, how to diffuse it, what you want behind you, all these different things. And everything that I've learned, because now I'm leveraging a piece of leverage that I can do, which is the time that I've invested into the knowledge, if that makes sense. So I'm just planting those foundations of being able to leverage those skills to where people are now paying me. And literally just before I jumped on this call, someone messaged me about how do I do this with an MMA page. Now the geezer's got 2 followers. He's probably never going to take my advice and do nothing. So me saying about consultancy, the chances of him actually buying it are very limited. However, I know how this game goes, and it's good to plant the seed. Like I said, manifesting into it, even just mentioning that, because you never know. He may come back in 1 month, and after his birthday, he's got $400 extra, and he thinks, you know what, I'm going to give you 300 because I really want a cool Instagram page or to like grow my brand or do X, Y, Z. You just never know where that stuff's going to sort of lead. So it's always good to plant those seeds. And while I'm just taking a sip of my water, I'm just going to read the next bullet point I've got here. So the next one is a really good point, and this goes to Gary Vee again. It's alluded to the Gary Vee model, and it's sticking to what got me to the dance. And what I mean by that is when I started my channel, I thought, right, what can I control? What leverage do I have? Well, I have time. I didn't always have time, but I had my leverage was I didn't have a lot of people to interact with, so I could interact with all of them. So I commented to everyone, I DM'd everyone, I went to extreme extents. If people liked my post, I would go onto their page, DM them, and just say, oh, really thanks for the support, really appreciate it, looking to grow my brand over the next 10 years, enjoy the journey. If they drop me a follow, I'd say that. Keep it casual, Will. Same thing. I'd do that to people that liked, commented, I'd say, I really appreciate the support. All these different things, small little seeds. And I realised that I got to a point where I couldn't do all of them, and I stopped almost doing all of them. I didn't, in the general scheme of things, I still answered a lot of comments. I answered all my DMs in essence, but I could have been doing more. So that goes back to what this is, and it's just doubling down what got me to the dance. And the adjustment that I made on that this week is by a small adjustment, but a powerful one. I now reply to everyone that has shared my post on their story. So anyone that has it so they can allow messages off the back of that, I'll send them a message. I'll say, really appreciate the support on the recent post. Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend or day, whatever it may be. Keep it casual, Will. And I'll send one to absolutely everyone. And I'm at a point now, I sometimes get 100 a day. It's kind of crazy, actually, to even be in a position where I've got 100 people interacting with my brand full stop, let alone it's 100 individual people posting my work onto their stories. And then you start looking at that network effect of what that does. And it's kind of wild, because you think of where 100 different people can project your voice. And as I always say, I don't know why I'm doing a very sort of camp Indian dance there, but as I always say, it only takes one video to change your life. And it sounds extreme, but I do live a lot of days with that thought of every time I click that share, you just never know what's going to happen to it. You just never know. You never know. And it's an exciting prospect, but it makes me think that I do need to double down into the personability and the actual brand. And I've definitely done that a lot more this week, to be perfectly honest. And another thing that I've done more this week is I'm reading the bullet point I've written down here. It's just about what my cousin said to me about YouTube once, about being obsessed. You need to be obsessed to go and watch the Mr. Beast interview. And that's definitely one thing I've gone away and I'm actively more conscious of. Not conscious of, completely subconscious now, because I've woven it into my very existence. If I'm watching anything, if it's an advert, if it's a glimpse of a film my mum's watching when I walk past the front room, if it's a documentary that's on the side when I'm talking to someone, whatever it may be, I'm analysing. What shot are they using? What frame are they using? Why are they doing this? What's in their intentions? Why are they maybe framing the scene like this? How are they storytelling? What's the pacing? What sound design are they using? What transitions are they using? How quick are they doing hooks? And how quickly are they disturbing the frequency of their storytelling? Are they slowing down the pace? When are they slowing down? I'm not going to bore you with the nuances, but essentially 1,000,001 things that I never paid attention to before that I'm now trying to be actively observant for. And now I'm seeing my game level up. And where I'm noticing that most is in sound design. And this is where I've been paying so much attention, because sound design I never realized is, oh my goodness, it is the majority of videos. It really is. And getting good sound design, you don't actually realize until you're creating the video and you can listen to it with and without, or you can listen to people that do it well and people that don't, how flat something sounds. And I'm starting to realize that everything is essentially cooking. Everything is cooking. With fighters, it is essentially cooking. You've got multiple ingredients, and the better the fighter is, the more layered the dish is, the more layers to their game they've got. We've often heard that phrase. It's obviously the same in actual cooking. When you have a really nice dish, it's got a lot of layerings in flavour, even if it's quite simplistic. But it's very much the same here in design, in editing. If you've got a ton of different layers in terms of sound design, it makes you feel like you're actually in the shot. It's like you're actually standing in the middle and you're being surrounded essentially by all these sounds and feelings, and you're not picking up on this consciously, but it's happening in your subconscious. And it's so fascinating to watch videos that I haven't done that on, and ones that I have, and the difference that it makes in the videos are just second bar none. It's ridiculous. I didn't realize the importance, but now I'm picking up on that crazily. And just on the back of that, that's an adjustment I made this week, is when I'm saying, can I do more? Can I do more? Yes, I can. Yes, I flipping can do more. And I'll tell you how I can do more. I can go on my downloads, get all of the downloads that I've done for all the sound effects in all my recent projects. I can put them on my hard drive. I can name them all perfectly. I can do it with all the songs. So now I've got hard drive files of all the sound effects, all the names and all the volumes that I can perfectly go into, search and just edit super quick now. That's how I can level up. And the difference from that before was, this is where we talk about identity and shift the mindsets, because now I look at myself, and rightly or wrongly, you may laugh at me for thinking so, but I look at myself and I think I'm a professional now, and I have to treat myself as such. And my thought process before, when I saw someone talk about doing that, it was in one of those 7 hacks for editors sort of videos, and it was that exact thing. And in my head, I instantly said on that bullet point, I said, I'm not even at that level yet. I don't use sound design. This is not going to be as important for me. I've not got much time because I've got to do this edit. I just want to get some real, like, quick, good tips. I discarded it. But my mindset's completely shifted now, and I see myself as a professional. And professionals have those catalogs of sounds and design so that they can perfectly go in and match it. They don't spend loads of time wasting editing. So I've just taken hours away from my edit already by just doing that. So that was actually a really nice little thing I'd done. And I mean, the actual input it took, I would have procrastinated that on way too long. So I didn't need to do that. Because of Embedded, I want to chef up Brazilian picanha with Glover in Brazil for a Food Fighters episode. Yeah, that happened this week. This is what I mean about sporadic thoughts. That happened this week. I saw Glover cooking Brazilian barbecue for Poatan in the warm-up to their fight. Not only was it the most wholesome thing I've ever seen, but it made me want to go to Brazil and go and do a Food Fighters episode with Glover Teixeira and go and eat some of that famous Brazilian barbecue. I need to go out there and not only chat to one of the best mixed martial arts veterans we've ever seen in the sport, but also just go and have a little knees up and a couple of cold beers with my man Glover. And I say my man because you just think of him as an uncle. He's so cuddly and nice, but killer on the cage, of course. Glover Brazil barbecue. That's a big one for me. Those ones are big for me. I like writing those down because I want to make those come true more than any, because that's the truth of it. I thought about it this week as well. For as long as I can remember, I've always watched cooking programs or traveling programs or cooking and traveling programs and said, I want to do that, I'm going to do that. I've always said that since I was 8-7 years old. However young I can remember back to, I've always watched those with my mum and said, I want to do that when I'm older. I always watched sports, loved sports, and thought, yeah, that's cool and whatnot. But I never had that burning desire to probably even be a sportsman, or maybe subconsciously I just told myself, nah, I'm not going to be good enough. I think it was more that. In truth, I think I just had the wrong mindset. I think I had all the attributes to do something good in some sport, but my mindset was wrong. But I always said I want to do that. Always. No other job. Never said I wanted to do another job, really. Never. And even if I said I wanted to do X, Y, Z, in the back of my head, it was like, I want to do that a little bit more than most other things, but I don't even want to do that fully. But I wanted to do that fully for always. So that was a big one for me. Establishing shots in Embedded, and that just, Embedded also taught me that. But I learned a lot from Embedded, well and truly, to be honest, because they do so many good things right. And I guess that sort of brings me on to one of the last things that I've been stewing on this entire week, to be perfectly honest, but intensely over the last couple of days, because for the past, to be perfectly honest, ever since I can remember, I wanted to create my own clothes, which sounds probably crazy to people if they knew me, because I've never been known as a fashionista or a real design freak or anything like that. And to be perfectly honest, it never really even was with that intention or that idea in mind. It was just always a case of I sort of knew what I wanted or liked a couple of things, and I either couldn't afford it or couldn't find it, or one of the two. And then I started just understanding what I liked in different things, and then obviously taking inspiration from other things and sort of changing my style a little bit. But this idea has been in the back of my head for literally years, for a lot of years. But in terms of doing it with casuals and whatnot, it's well over a year. And for anyone that doesn't know, the clients that I PT, I'm in a very fortunate position where they own a brand that they've just sold to Next, which is the most lucrative designer kids clothing brand ever. Multi-million pound business that they grew from scratch. that they had DJ Khaled involved in and Drake involved in, and this is the scale and the magnitude that we're talking about. And I'm so fortunate enough to be able to ask for guidance and help and things with that nature with them, because they're super kind and giving with their time and information like that. So I picked their brains a little bit, and I asked them about it a year ago and got some ideas and things of that nature. And I've just been stewing over it, and it hit me this week. I'm sitting there late at night, and I found this photo when I was going through my hard drive in Bangkok, and I really liked it. And I thought, wow, I've not seen this before. This would look so cool on a piece of clothing. I'd really, really like this. And then I started thinking about it. Okay, this is from Thailand. I could tie it in as sort of like a Thai project, and I can make it all centered around that. So all of the photography featured is going to be from my trip to Thailand with the MMA training and the beautiful view. I'm going to try and draw in my whole entire travel of that, whether it's the food, whether it's the culture, whether it's the training, the MMA, whatever it may be, within my clothing project, whether that's a single piece or a multiple. But at this point, I just wanted to create one piece, nothing more. And I drafted it on a t-shirt, and then I thought about it because I've done so much research in this area, and it made me think back to Paddy Galloway, who is pound for pound one of the most informative people you can listen to in regards to YouTube and making careers online and how to diversify revenue streams. And I heard him speak about Logan Paul's clothing brand and how it made 2 million or 3 million, something crazy, in 2 days. Now, I don't anticipate doing that because I've not got the brand or notoriety that he has or the decades of skin in the game. I don't have that. But one thing they mentioned, Paddy Galloway mentioned, which was fascinating, which stuck with me, which is so true, because I'd been learning about fashion in its entirety. I went back to its core. What is it? Why is it? I just learned about fashion at its very, very core fundamentals. And essentially it all comes down to, and it all boils down to, identity. Nothing more. Clothing boils down to identity. It doesn't boil down to the quality or what it looks like a lot of the time. It boils down to what message it says when you wear it. And something that he done in this video, Paddy Galloway, was referred to Logan Paul, and it was a little bit of a cheesy video, a bit American, but the point of the matter was he'd done a release video for the clothing, but yet didn't mention the clothing, didn't say anything about it, didn't say how good a material it was or where it was, how it was made, or anything about the quality. Nothing. Not one mention. Nothing. But he wore it throughout the video, and he's told his story about his own brand, his own journey, what it meant to be a Logan Paul fan. And that's storytelling, and that's creating the meaning behind what people are wearing. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, right, I know I need to do that. I know I need to create brand. I know I'm conscious of that. You have to storytell. And then I thought of another eureka moment, which I've watched again from millions of hours of watching research into these clothing areas, is a massive part of the experience is packaging. You have a look at packaging, it's a major part of a clothing experience because it's the first interaction you have with a brand and how you should feel about them, whether that's a piece of polystyrene bag that you open up and your first feeling is just cheap, basic, standard, whether it's a luxurious yellow box that says Selfridges and you get that intense luxury, whether it's a Broken Planet jumper where they folded it in and you know you're going to get creativity and design and a little off-the-cuff originality. It's a major part of it. But the second string attack to that is not only is it a major part of it from how it makes the customer feel, but also from that aspect that you're going to get people that are subsequently, if it's good enough and is provoking enough, make content around actually getting your packaging. So people are going to start making TikToks and Instagrams of receiving your packaging or even opening it if you can do it in a smart or intelligent enough way. And then that made me think, I have to really think about the packaging, which I had before anyway, but I thought about it more. And what I could do. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I have to think outside of the box. I have to think outside of the box and I have to storytell. My original idea was that I was going to create somewhat of a box which looked like an old school camera, and it would even have like a little rope. So instead of like a handle, you could sort of like put it around your neck and it would look like a little camera, but inside would obviously have the t-shirt. Not with the intention of you're going to go out and wear that, but the intention of it's a little bit of something intricate and cool whilst you see it. And then I thought, I don't mind it. I don't love it. Few logistical difficulties there, but probably could overcome. And then I really thought about it. I thought, think outside of the box. I kept saying this sentence to myself, just thinking it was going to be a fruitful endeavor. And so it was, because then I thought about it. I need to storytell, and I need that good packaging, because not only are other people going to create content on it if it's good enough, I can create content on me packaging the product and the process of the design and who I'm giving it to, and creating cool, engaging content with that. And then the world's my oyster. Really, then the world's your oyster, because you've got promotional content yourself, which is not asking for anything. You're just showing the intricacy and the originality of whatever else. You're storytelling within that. You're getting other people to do it, but you're also creating an experience, because the storytelling comes from the packaging to start with. You're getting told a story, what brand you're buying from, why you're buying it, what sort of item you're buying. So it's an early process. And I thought, right, okay, I know what I can do. All of my projects in terms of my clothing are centered around my photography, essentially. So we can storytell through Casuals Corner, through the photography, and through the clothing. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take the photograph, and that's obviously going to be the print on the t-shirt. But what's secondary I can do to that is the packaging can be a cylinder sort of tube, sort of box, so it imitates what you used to get back in the day when you bought a film camera and you got a film cartridge. You would take the top off and you slide the film out, right? That would make sense. So what I'm going to do is get a matte black box, white lettering, slick, minimalist, easy design, but clean. And I'm going to recreate a film capsule as the clothing packaging with a little handle in the casuals fashion, of course. And then within that, you're going to have the t-shirt. And then within the t-shirt, you're then going to have an envelope, which within it is going to have a Polaroid of 4 photos, which is going to exactly storytell the entire piece and the inspiration behind it. So realistically, if I'm actually thinking off the top of my head, it's going to have a picture of the food from Thailand, a picture of probably some of the training, and then obviously Bangkok where I experienced that, and then maybe something else, maybe me behind the scenes, whatever else. And then I'm thinking of even how I can maybe adapt that and provide more within that. But essentially that will be the rough look at what you'd get. So now not only are you getting a packaging experience, not only are you getting a beautiful product anyway, with probably, I'm going to go black tissue paper, white casual stamped on it, probably. And just go to every extreme with that packaging, because like I said, it's going to serve its purpose. It will go and serve its purpose. I need to think long term with this. I can't try and cut corners. I can't try and cut costs, because I'm not trying to create a project where I can whack it on a t-shirt design on Google, and next day it's printed 20 of them, and I've got these cheap, horrible fabrics with like a bad screen print, and I'm selling them for 20 quid and I'm calling it merch. It's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring people into the journey of Casuals Corner, what it truly means to pivot into any area or passion point of creativity. I do it through the medium of mixed martial arts, and I show how I do it, whether it's food, whether it's photography, videography, design, clothing, whatever else. I'm essentially just trying to double down on me, on what I enjoy, because I'm learning that essentially, if I can refine what I enjoy the most, I am going to get people that follow that journey, because naturally they enjoy those things. Naturally, they may enjoy quite minimalist clothes that are comfy, that are just kind of chilled and nice. Maybe they enjoy food and they got a big passion for that, or MMA, or even photography, or maybe one of the few, whatever it may be. And that circles back to a piece of genius, that I saw from Virgil Abloh, who I shamefully didn't know who he was until recently. I heard his name, but I didn't know who he was, because like I said, I never identified truly as someone that paid attention or got into the details or the layerings of design, of fashion. The word just threw me off a little bit. I just thought, it's not really me. But I broke down that barrier. I started looking into Virgil Abloh and the genius work. He's got one-to-one pieces that he's got on his own channel on YouTube. God rest his soul. A literal genius. And I remember him saying to this man who was talking about his project and his design and all this stuff that he was doing, and he made incredible videos for the clothing, incredible videos and design. And he said, Virgil Abloh said, the beauty in what you are doing is not the clothing. This is secondary. It's completely secondary. He was putting he literally, when Virgil Abloh came in, the geezer had the t-shirt on the front, and he sort of had like his camera in the background or something as he sort of showed him the set. He said, you've got this the wrong way round. the camera's at the front, the t-shirt's in the background, and you need to create a brand or a story where it's essentially saying that when you wear this, this is who you are. So when you wear a casual's clothing, you are someone that maybe is trying to create their own business, or try something new, or try a new sport, or learn from scratch from something, or maybe get into photography, or maybe you just like food, or maybe you like minimalist clothing, or maybe it's one of these 100 different things, but you identify to that. And I thought, that's really clever. And then he said about even making a potential camera strap, because he was a photographer, and that would be something authentic. And instead of trying to go down the traditional route, go heavy into what you want to go into. And then I thought about it, and I thought, I want to make a camera strap, because well and truly, I've got a camera strap. It's horrible. I hate the material. I'd like a cool design, like a comfortable sit on your neck, something like really kind of luxurious, not this scratchy, horrible sore material. And I thought, well, that's one way to attract people innately to me and my brand, because the story I'm telling. And then secondary to that, I was thinking even down the line, something along the lines of having actual camera bags, creating bags, because I've got this All Saints one, which I really like, which I feel like I also really like the design and the functionality of the Eastpak one Max gave me when I went away, but also the look and the design of the sort of military ones that are quite fashionable now. And I feel like I could sort of make a mashup where it's a casuals bag for camera equipment, because I want that. This is the thing with all of this stuff. It's just what I want and what I want to wear. So if I can do that, I can execute on it enough, and I can storytell, I'm convinced I can get people to understand the brand. And like I said, I don't want to see a world where I'm just dropping 1,000 units. I'm going to try and do it in a way where it's seen as a project. It's seen as a thing to have this item of clothing, and the only times that people are going to see people have it, it's either going to be me, or I'm going to have it packaged and sent to certain people, so that every time people see the brand, they associate it with those names. Because that's another thing that my PT client said to me. They said, you have to get it to one person. They said one person and one picture can change your brand. And I think they got it to DJ Khaled one day, and they said that was it forever. It just changed their life. Not change their business, change their life. So I have to be really cautious, I think, and careful with how I want to operate. And I don't want to just go gung-ho. I don't need to rush. I don't need to try and monetize as quick as possible. If I can stay patient, stay true to what I'm trying to create, I really feel like I can create a brand that is going to be predicated on what I do as casuals. I feel like I can create a clothing brand which its identity and its social standing is going to be equivalent to what I can create with Casuals Corner. And I believe with Casuals Corner, I can create a culturally relevant, one of the biggest players in the media game in the mixed martial arts space, being one of the most culturally relevant and one of the most culturally innovative when it comes to content creation. I believe I can be up there or thereabouts within a 10-year period. And if I believe I can execute on that, then I believe that I can make the exclusivity and the meaning behind what it is to wear casuals clothing, especially the earlier pieces, just continue to exponentially rise. And especially if I've got that scarcity there, then that should in 10 years time increase the desirability. And then especially if I focus heavy on just associating it with the right people and not just giving it to everyone and anyone for any cheap price, and being carefully selective, that I can really create something on there and create something meaningful in the long run, and create a meaning behind each project. I'm excited for that, well and truly, because the main reason that comes is because as I start making more day in the life videos, as I start showing the behind the scenes more, I'll have to shout out Corey Tate, because he said something this week. I sort of chuckled as he said it, because he was wearing UFC shorts and he said, oh, you know, like, I don't want to wear them too much, give them too much free publicity. And I sort of laughed, because I thought, oh, it's the UFC. What is it you wearing their shorts gonna... I thought about it and I thought, you know what? You're right. You're right, because every time I'm wearing clothes, I'm not wearing casuals clothes. And I want to create these clothes that I can wear, and I only wear sort of three things. It's going to be casual comfies that I can wear while I'm watching pay-per-views. It's going to be sports stuff when I'm filming or lifting in the gym, or it's just going to be casual stuff that I'm working in. And I know all sort of rough designs and things I can make. So if I can make one piece of everything, socks, I'm going to go black socks, white embroidery here with the kicking stance. That's going to be the sort of sportier stuff. And then I'm going to do some more of the more casual stuff, which is going to be sort of not too dissimilar to this, but And then I'm just going to wear it. Absolutely. I'm going to wear my stuff in every video I'm on. And now every time anyone sees me, it's going to be in Casuals clothing. And I'm not ever going to sell the product. I'm not going to sell it. I'm never going to sell it in regards to come in your face, pause. That's a terrible thing to say. But shove it in your face. Again, pause. Terrible thing to say. Attack you with promotional offers and marketing and ads and all of this inauthentic BS that we're just accustomed to just swerving. I want to create a meaning, a brand, a story behind what it is to have Casuals Corner, and then I want people to associate my lifestyle with that. And my lifestyle being someone that's happy to, as I said, evolve with projects, start from nothing, start your own project, try and pivot into different things, whatever it may, just trying to level up. White belt philosophy essentially with Casuals. And I feel like if I just wear that in everything I do, people are going to start getting in the comments real quick. What's that? Where's that? That Casual. Da-da-da-da-da. And then I can reply with videos of me saying, oh yeah, I've made this project. Da-da-da-da. And then I can authentically share what I'm doing without inauthentically just pushing an ad in their face and trying to sell them something. And I'm never going to try and sell anyone anything, because think about it. The best brands don't need to market. Lamborghini doesn't have a million marketing ads and campaigns running. That's not true, because everyone knows their name. So if I can become that household name and subsequently drag what it means to wear Casuals clothing with it, then I can start creating something special. Then off the back of that, again, you can even look at a sort of consultancy model further down the line. And when I talk these things, I'm not saying I'm trying to do this all in a week. I'm talking 10-year plans, but we're getting things rolling, you know, and this is the sort of start of it. But I got to start making that bread. It's as simple as that. I got to start making dough, and I'll finish it on this point, because in fact there's one or two things I definitely want to get on this episode before I rush up, because there's been a lot that's gone on this week, and I've definitely tried to take more inspiration from design, and I've made an album, and now I put things into the album so I can sort of stay on top of it. But I think the truth of it is, and a bit more of the emotional side of it is, I've definitely been missing my granddad a lot recently. My nan and granddad, of course, but my granddad more specifically, just because obviously he was always an incredible person when I was young, and I loved him. He was an amazing person to me. But as I get older, I realise the true incredible mindset and skills that my granddad had. And he is a beacon, an absolute beacon of light in regards to behaviour and attitudes and mindset towards things. And every single day, it really is sort of a question of, I'm trying to emulate him more. That's true. That's just true. And I know my mum's even said that before, because that's the type of person he was. Every obstacle that came in his way, he dealt with in just such a stoic manner. It was incredible. Just the stoicism and the wisdom he had, just from the humblest of beginnings with trousers with no pockets and no shoes, just growing up on the poor streets of East London as bombs drop above his head, and growing to a place where he managed a department in chaos, essentially working in the fire safety world, on boats in those times, on those docks when safety and red tape was at an all-time minimum. It's no wonder that he was a manager of so many people in such a stressful environment, because that is what he did. He dealt with everything with such stoicism and such level-headed composure and thoughtfulness. It's just awe-inspiring, genuinely awe-inspiring, and I try and emulate that, and it's so difficult to do. But if I try and become more like him every day, and like I said, that's why I miss him, because I learn more about him and I realise the person he was. The more I speak to my mum, the older I get, and the similarities I see that we have. And also he wrote a lot of poetry. He wrote a lot of poetry back in the day in regards to his life and being in the docks and living in East London and growing up in East London and the trials and the tribulations, and wrote some incredible poems that he used to share with the East London community that A lot of people used to read and love. And I think for me, really, I'll end on this note. It's been this mindset shift of really, really embracing truly what I want to do. Truly what I want to do. And I feel like I'm finding this position now where I'm taking inspiration from any and everything I can, but I'm also staying really authentic to what I want to do and not paying too much attention to other people. And the reason I say that is because I think back to my granddad and the incredible poems that he wrote about his times and just the way he told stories, essentially. Not only is that obviously inspirational and where I get a deep love of it, but when I do that, I get that connection with him. And I'm going through my books and I've got so many written pages of just when I'm traveling or on my page or on notes, and I'm realizing I've always done this. I've always written those. And I need to share them more. And I'm at a position now. I don't care. I don't care. I really don't. I've just been in this content game long enough now where I really, like, well and truly can say I don't care in the best of ways. When I first started even getting into the fitness game, how I mentioned at the start, I was terrified people that I used to go to school with were going to see, or people I used to go to my cricket club were going to see and take the piss out of me. But I just did it anyway. And then you start realizing people actually don't really take the piss out of you as much as you thought. Maybe they do behind your back, but they start respecting it. They start respecting the hustle. I mean, not everyone, but I saw it, that quite a shift. I saw people go, oh, fair enough. Like, oh, fair play. Like, I think people just growing up a little bit. Attitudes are shifting towards how people earn monies and careers. You look at being a YouTuber is the most desirable job in the world now. So when you have a look at people hustling on these type of platforms, you can't look at it with, he's trying to be a YouTuber. You're competing to be in the top 1% of the most competitive jobs in the world. So you really have to put in time, attention, and be good at your craft. I mean, more so than quite literally anything, because the internet is inundated with it. But it just circles back to my point of the authenticity is I've done this long enough now. I just don't care. And I'm happy to just share my work, whatever form that is. And I'm at a point now where I go into what you could argue is the manliest settings, mixed martial arts gyms, all this testosterone, people fighting, all this doing, and I can barefaced look in the face to people and just say, yeah, I do poetry on my page as well. And that doesn't sound crazy to people, but that's such a juxtaposition, that's such an oxymoron, if you like, of things, of that violence with that thing that's just has a negative connotation to it or a more feminine connotation to it. Let's be real. I don't care anymore. I just do whatever I enjoy. If it's food, I enjoy it, I'll do it. If it's writing, I'll do it, I'll enjoy it. If it's talking to someone, I'll do it, I enjoy it. And I have no care. Absolutely no care, because I'm in this position now where I'm realizing that it's a very real reality to me that I can do everything I enjoy. Traveling, being with friends, being with family, food, interviewing, working on projects, creating things, being creative. I can do all of these things every day, and it's becoming more and more realistic. And it's like, what could anyone say to you what could anyone online say to you that you haven't heard if you've been in the game for 3-4 years already, that's going to knock you off your stride at that point? You can't get too high, you can't get too low. That's a Gary Vee quote. You have to just stay here. If someone says, oh my god, you're my favorite Instagram account, oh, you should be the biggest, you can't let your ego go here. But when someone says, kill yourself, you're so cringe, you've made a poem video, it's MMA, you can't go here. And I just sit here. And when you get to a point where you get more comments and more mentions and you get more traction and more engagement, you get less time and energy to be able to actually react to these things. You can't react to any of these posts because you'd be spending too much of your time reacting, overreacting. You have to just have that level-headedness, that composure with the comments, your replies, your feedback. You have to just take, if it's constructive criticism, take it. But I don't care anymore. I'll write a flipping poem. I'll read what I wrote on the beach. I really don't care. I don't. And I'm in a position now where, if you're listening to this, I'm in a position now where I just feel more confident than ever I'm gonna do what I execute on. What I say. I just am confident in that now, and I'm confident in a place where I'll say it on wax. I'll put it on YouTube. I will immortalize it. I'll happily do that because I'm not really too bothered who's listening, because I'll probably happily say my intentions of what I intend to do with my brand to you, barefaced, in depth if you want to hear it. And I think when people hear it, they just realise there's an intensity to what I'm saying. There's a sincerity to what I'm saying, but there's also this clear evidence that I'm trying to do what I need to do to get there. I'm not doing everything, because obviously I can always improve, but I'm trying, and I have every belief that I'm going to succeed in doing that. Casuals clothing. Create the brand, storytell. I am the story, so tell my story. My day in the life videos are perfect for that. I just need to have my clothing in on those, and people are naturally going to start to see that. Those videos do well. They get tens of thousands of views, those videos. That's hundreds of thousands of views of people over time seeing my clothing, seeing me in it, and I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it. I'm not trying to create content around it. I'm just happen to wear it. I'm storytelling. I'm creating what it means to wear casuals. I need to just put my foot, I'm just, again, foot on the throttle. Every week I say it, but every week I mean it. I'm going to double down, I'm going to double up, and we're just going to go harder. We're going to go harder in a way if it's more output, if it has to be that way, if it has to be more efficient, if it has to be the fact that I need to double down and earn some money to get someone to film me, to expand this media outlet, to triple down the output I can do, and to get those sound bites and those behinds and be able to leverage my consultancy and my things. And this is what it is. When it comes down to all of this, all these things that I've said, everything just stems back to being able to just create more leverage. That's all it is. All it is. It all circles. The clothing circles back to the consultancy circles back to the brand circles back to the media circles back to me, I circle back to the clothes, I circle. It's an entire entity. It's a business in itself, and I need to keep treating it like that, and I need to start earning some proper money now. And let's take it up the next level, because now the limiting factor for me is not so much information where it was before. Now it's resources, and now I feel like my back's against the wall, and now I'm forced to go out and make that adjustment. I think I've got no choice but to do it, and I'm going to have to face my fears, overcome it, and just grab the ball by the horns and get some dough. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the ride. Keep it casual.